architectures. So let us know why it is called microservice first. So as I mentioned earlier, microservice is an architectural design for building a distributed application using containers. So they get their name because each function of the application operates as an independent service. So the real-time examples we can take as the enterprises like Amazon, Netflix, Uber, which have adopted microservices to achieve scaling advantages, business agility, and profitability. So let us know the benefits of microservice. This and all I did it for myself, so I thought let me share with you all. So the benefits of microservices are they allow the teams to use different technologies and programming languages for different services, and they enable faster and easier updates and deployment of individual services without affecting the whole application. So if there is any problem which is occurring in one system, it will not affect the entire application. So also to overcome these problems while working, there are some practices that are to be followed, and in microservice those practices are called design patterns, which was explained by Jeevan. So let me get into the topics of overview of microservice for the GTS identity service. So here I have the user service, role permission service, and user role service. So the requirement for this is to check the login function and to check the credential encryption method and check the usability of login page. So let me show the page of how it looks. This is the UI page. So the login page will be, the home page will look like this. And when I click on the registration page, it should show me the registration page. So these are the user roles and these are the service role, and the permission roles and other permissions are being inbuilt inside the database. And when I click on login page, this is how the login page is going to be, and it is going to ask me the permission. The permission services will be accessed over here. So let me talk about brief about the APIs. So APIs are the application programming interface. So it will enable two software components to communicate with each other using a set of definitions and protocols. So in simple word, I can say that APIs is a way for one program to interact with another. And also it makes it easier to integrate different software system and automate workflows. So for example, let me tell the weather data, which is a popular API example that we come across regularly. The weather application on your phone talks to this system via APIs and shows you daily weather updates on your phone. And another example I can say is when you use an online shopping website, an API may connect the website to a payment system, a shipping service, and a product database. So let me talk about API life cycles. So API life cycles, it will manage the process of overseeing every stage of API's life cycle and ensuring that each one is running as smoothly as possible. So it consists of three primary phases. One is create, control, and consume. So in create phase, you will build and document your API. In control phase, you will apply security policy, and in the consume phase you will publish and monetize the APIs. So how actually the API works? So API request is a message that is sent to a server asking on API to provide a service or information. So they are so APIs are broadly accepted and used in a web application. So in an application, when an API request is requested, it goes to the database. It will ask for the HTTP codes. Here it comes all the method which we use, and it will provide the service with some it will provide the server client with some service of information. So that will be the API response. So that is what I said, like invoking the API with specific parameters. and receiving output from API and observing the system's response. So let us talk about API testing in Postman. So as I mentioned, API testing uh, is to ensure APIs are working as expected and report bugs we come across some uh, if we come across while testing it. So Postman is an application platform that simplifies every step of the API lifecycle, making it easier for developers to build, test, and use APIs. So, in simple words, a microservice contains all the code required for a particular application function, and API is a communication mechanism to access that function. So, microservices expose functionality via APIs, so other microservice can use them when required. So let us see some common types of API which will be used on the web, and these are the things that we will be working on it. First is endpoint. So we have endpoint. Every API request is directed to an API endpoint, which is dedicated as a URL providing access to a specific resource. And then we have methods. In each API request, this method has to be included, defining the operation the client wants to perform on the specific resource. So the common HTTP request methods which we are going to be using is the get, post, put, and delete. And in get, it is the reading, which you're going to read and retrieve the data. And in the post, you will be creating a new data. And in update, you will be updating and putting all the uh, modification of the data. And for deleting, it is used for deleting and removing the data. So what to test in API testing? So these are the things actually we are going to do it in the API testing. We will be doing unit testing, end-to-end testing, security testing, performance testing, API key validation, schema validation, positive test, and negative test. So the tools that will support API testings are, these are the tools. And the tool which we are going to be working is Postman. So as I mentioned, Postman, it is API platform in which you can create and send API requests to connect with the APIs you are working on. So this is the database settings or configuration that we are going to do. So when you create and set up a database, first you have to create a database, configure the properties file, and then create the database table. So then we have the database server, which follows the traditional client server model and provides a database application. So this is the client server model. So it tells that the client makes the request to the server, and the server will verify the privileges first, and then it will process a request from the client, and it will be sending to the database. So here the data in the database, the server will access the data source, and here once it is accessed, then the server will return the result to the client. So why do you need a database server? So you need a database server to store an organized database of information and provide access to user who have access authorization. So when talking about the software part, you can find a database server as database management system or database server software. So the particular choice of server software are the Microsoft SQL, Oracle, MySQL, Amazon RDA, and so on. We have many other. So people will be using Amazon for other things, and now which I'm going to use is Microsoft MySQL, because MySQL is a powerful domain used for managing and querying relational databases, and it allows you to interact with database by creating, retrieving, updating, and deleting the data. So here SQL will play as a database as a crucial role in managing the data within database, and Postman will provide tools and features to interact with database via APIs and making it easier for the developers to work with the data-driven application. So this is the database configuration which we are going to do. So for the database configuration, first we have to click on the SQL server and get connect. After the configuration, it will for the connection, first you have to give your connect name. So here it will be like gts.dev, which I'm going to work, and then it will ask you for the password. So for the password you have to put your password, and once you click OK, it will navigate you to the SQL database page. So this will be the SQL database page, and here first you have to create your schema. So this will be leading you to create a new schema in the connected server, and then you have to give your schema name as GTS Service Platform DB. I have already created, so you have to create it when you're creating as a new, and we have to apply it and finish it. So once you are done, you will get it. Then after creating a schema, you have to add your tables. So I will be adding the tables as GTS users because this is the identity service. So for this, I would have given the codes. So I will apply this codes and I will store and keep it in the data. So this is the creating a new schema and adding tables. So once it is done, now we have to import the Postman collection in the Postman. So how do we do is we have to open the Postman and navigate to the collections. So for in our left hand side, there will be import. We have the import and it will ask us which file to select. So once we select the files, we have to always select the JSON file to import the data, and once it is done, it will create the collections. So now once you have uh, imported the collection file, so this is how it is going to be looking, the GTS identity service. So under that, these are the collection file. Identity service is the collection file, and under that I have the folder as user service, role service, permission service, role permission service, and user role service. So under those, I will be having the methods, the common HTTP methods, that is like post request. Then I will be having the get request. All that will come when I show the next slide. And after post request, under that method, I'll be having the create user. That is the test which I'll be doing. So that those will be there, and the local host will be 4728. So how to run the microservice? So once we finish this importing the file, when you start running the test cases, test API testings, you will not be able to run the Postman because it will give you an error as could not send request, because when you send, before running this, we have to first run the jar file. So to run the jar file, you have to, let me show it. So we have to go for command prompt. So you have to open your terminal and just put Java space -jar space your jar file name. So this is my jar file name, GTS identity service. This is my jar file name .jar, and I'll give enter so that it will start running. So here the jar files are self-contained and can be executed independently, making them a convenient choice for microservices. So here you can see that my jar file is initiating. So the jar file is starting and it started. So it started with the Tomcat started. So Tomcat is nothing. It provides a pure Java environment for running web application and making it a popular choice for Java developers and organizations seeking an open source solution for hosting their Java-based web projects. So here the port number is 472. So this will be my port number when I work in Postman. So once the jar file is run, after importing, we have the jar file running. So why do we actually use minus jar is because in case we don't run our jar file, it will show us an error, and that will lead us not to work further. Then this is the post request, which is under the um, user service. So what is this param? The authorization body, everything is authorization. If you want to test the API, sometimes we require authentication and some kind of keys, because other web service provides not allowed us to test their APIs. So this is the post request, which I'm sending the valid input. So this is the output. So I'm giving the valid input. This is the output for me. And then I'm giving a negative test, which is by sending an invalid input. So I'm giving an invalid input here as without at gmail.com. So it is giving me, please enter valid email address. So this is by sending an invalid input. And whatever I have created the positive test in the post, this will be stored in my database as user ID 41 nikki1 at gmail.com. So get request, it is used for getting the data. So here, when I try sending it by getting all the user, I will not be getting in data, because we have to get an token key from the login page. So that's how to create authentication token. So I'll be going to login details with the user login with email. So whatever I have created with Nikki, I will be running it, and I will get the token here. So once I get this token, I will start to put in the get request, where it will be in the authorization. So have to put type as API key. So this is how you set the token for other APIs. So for the type, you have to click as API key, and for the key, you have to give auth underscore token, and for value, mirror, and you have to paste the token. So this is how you set the token for other APIs. So after setting the token, once you give send, you will get the output like get all the users. So these all are the users that have been in the database. Then we have put request. So input request, there is activate, making the user activate. So here I'm giving the user as 40. So before that, the user was in 0, if you see here. So I'm making it
Akila, is there a way you can zoom your screen so the letters
yeah,
are
I'm just
visible?
trying to zoom it here.
Thank you.
So here in user inactivate, so I'm making the user ID 40 as inactivate. So it is telling me user is inactivated successfully. So here you can see that user is inactivated as 0. So here input request, you are modifying and you are updating some request. Here in delete request, what you do is you are deleting or removing the data. So here I'm sending the delete request in URL form. I'm giving 39 to be deleted. So you can see that 39 row is being deleted. So let us see how to test the other APIs manually. So my jar file is running there. So this is the page for MySQL. So GTS is created, and this is the database. So in GTS service platform, I have the tables that is been here. So in Postman, once you have imported, I'm gonna test with the post test. So first is create user with email. So I'm giving a user email as demo2@gmail.com, and I'm sending it. So my response has to be like the response that I have to get is user registration successful. So it is successfully registered, and I have to check in my MySQL in my database. So I'm running the TTS user. So you can see that demo2@gmail is being created and it is active. So then we have user email exist. So I'm giving as demo2@gmail.com. So here user email exists already. So this is already existed. So it is showing me properly. And then I have user email empty. So I'm giving it testing with empty. And it is telling user email should not be empty. So this is how we do the post test by sending the data. So post test, in simple words, I can say that it is used for read only operation and creating new users and emails. And you can, how it actually works is you're sending data usually in the request body as we have put here, and request body to the server, and the server process it and will respond it accordingly. Now we have get request. So get request is for read only operation. So here you will be fetching the data by getting it as get all users, get user by ID. So here how to test is we have to first take the token. So for the token we have to get into login details. But just taking some time. So in user login with email, so I'm giving the user name and password which I have created to take a token. And I'm sending it. So this is the token that is created. I'll be copy pasting it and putting in the get request in authorization. And saving it. And then I go for get all user details and I will run it. So when I run, I'll get all the data of the users. So next we have get users by ID. So this is, you will be giving the data in the URL. So I'm giving as 43 which I have created. So I'm getting it. So I'm giving 44 which we have created. So the details which I have created in with Gmail have been popped up here. So this is how we do the get request. So in update request, we have inactivate user using the put method. So put is used to pass the data to server for creation or modification of a resource. So for inactivate user, also have to give the authorization.
Akila,
Yes.
there is a lot of background noise at your end. Can you do something about it, please?
So this is how you do the test. And for the update, you will be it is used to update an existing resource. So it tells user is activated successfully. So here it will be in my database 37 will be inactivated as 0. So this is for put, and then we have same thing for everything for the other methods. So how to delete request? So for delete request, we have to just give the URL code so that it is used to remove a resource from the server commonly used to delete an existing record. So I'm giving the record as 43. So user deleted successfully. So this is how we do the testing for the API. That's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That
Okay,
was
right.
an amazing presentation, and
Thank you.
well
Yeah.
done, well done. So I look forward to
Okay.
seeing more of your work in subsequent session. Thank you, and have a great
Thank
day.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bye.